I was not expecting to spend nearly a decade working on the story of Louvel and redrawing these characters roughly every year, from 2017 all the way up to now. I don't know how many times I'll end up redrawing this illustration in the future, but it is such a joy to look back at where I first started and where I'm at now, not only with the improvements for the illustrations, but also with the story of Louvel and each of the characters where they get more depth and personality instead of just, that's a good guy, that's a bad guy, that's an anthropomorphic creature, that's a human. This is why it is important for me to retell this story every year, and why last year's information and every video before it isn't canon anymore. I hope that you all will welcome the new changes to Louvel, and for anyone who has stuck with me through all the old videos, thank you, because, oh, they were rough and messy, and apparently even I didn't get my own information correct. Apparently some of the history of some of the characters like Zell from the land of Mugala with the anthropomorphics was supposed to be a hybrid of a dragon and a wolf, called Dragals. A very strange name combination, and he was supposed to have a sister named Hazel, and a brother named Caleb, who then later got turned into a cheetah, who was just an outsider who didn't like the way that Otis and Ava, the king and queen, a wolf and lion, had ran the land of Mugala, thought he could do better, so he went to the neighboring lands with the humans, Nathan and Tanya, and their son Cameron, told them that they could use their technology and machines to take what they wanted. They had plenty of magic in the land of Mugala. All he needed to do was help overthrow Ava and Otis and reclaim what was gonna be his, so that they could have all the nature they wanted in exchange for these weapons, and the security of making sure that he had extra power backing him. This all fell apart when basically everybody in the story died, except for Zell and Cameron, who ended up fighting each other. Cameron blamed Zell for Caleb's actions, stating, "How could you let one of your own citizens do this? And we need this land. Why don't you just lend us some of your magic instead of just trying to teach us how to do it on our own, where if we gave back to the land, it wasn't our fault. We just need more help and more land and more everything." I can't read the old story with a straight face anymore. It's so bad. It's so cheesy. So let's fix that. And let me explain the introduction of Serenity. Serenity is an anthropomorphic deer-human hybrid. She's a chimera. I changed it from a Neko because it sounded so cheesy. The human Elliot and the anthropomorphic deer Holly are her parents, and they live in a land called Valoon, which is near Mugala and Memoria. The land is known for unity. Humans, anthropomorphics, hybrids, and chimeras all live there sharing traditions, and they are not only welcome there, but also if they don't want to live there anymore, if any specific anthropomorphics or humans want to leave and return to Nemoria or Mugala, they're welcome to it, but hybrids didn't have a place to go. Chimeras were new, they didn't have anywhere to go. That is where Valoon is. It is a land that started because of the creation of these chimeras and hybrids, that they didn't have a place where they could really belong. Now, the difference with hybrids and chimeras is chimeras are human and anthropomorphic mixed together. The hybrids are simply just any of the anthropomorphic species mixed together, be it a lion and a wolf, like the leaders Otis and Ava with their son Zell, or any number of them. It could be an avian or a serpentine creature, you name it, but they were never mixed with anything that showed human until the chimeras in the land of Valoon started popping up. Now, it's not that everybody blindly followed in the leader's steps, so in the land of Mugala, not everyone followed along with Otis and Ava's rule, thus introducing the cheetah named Rowan, who thought that he could do better. He thought that he deserved to be Ava's king instead of Otis, and he felt like he could rule the land better, but he had the problem that Otis and Ava at this time already had a son named Zell who was growing, and he would now be the next in line to take over the kingdom, so what he needed to do was get power backed behind him. When Rowan was trying to talk to Otis and Ava, he was banished from the land of Mugala for his treason in threatening to kill the king and queen and their son. He had his name already on the list as a watch out for him and do not welcome him back in for many of them, but some of them had also fled because they didn't want to just live in the land of Mugala anymore. Many of them stumbled to the land of Valoon, and so did Rowan. When he spoke to Serenity, he was appalled. He didn't understand how humans and anthropomorphics could make chimeras, but he kept on a plastered smile to fool them in asking, what is this land of Nemoria and these humans? And many humans from Nemoria didn't really know about the other lands. It was only a few that had strayed too far and found themselves in the land of Valoon. It was complicated, but many humans and many anthropomorphics were equally not really welcomed in the land of Mugala or Nemoria, but what really solidified this was the actions that Rowan had taken next. Rowan went to meet with Nathan and Tanya, the leaders of Nemoria. What can we do to get more of this magic you speak of from the land of Mugala, and if you're certain of this, we will give you what weapons and tools we have to help you improve the land in exchange for this. Rowan decided to plan with Nathan to go to the lands and try to talk with Otis and Ava. Tanya joined along to help try to be a sort of peaceful voice of reason and left their son Cameron back in Nemoria for safety. While Zell was sitting with his mother Ava, Otis was trying to do most of the talking to keep the peace, explaining to Nathan and Tanya when they arrived that Rowan was a traitor, he was a liar, he was not as powerful as he claimed. Everything that he had promised them with magic and all that was not his to give away. But Nathan and Tanya tried to still reason and state that we are now aware of this and we apologize for coming here with mixed information, but we would still like some of this magic. If you could offer us assistance, we can exchange some of our tools and everything that we can offer to make your land better, just as you would help us with ours, an equal-ish exchange, without realizing that Otis had to clarify that there is no limitless magic. Everything comes at a balanced cost. If they were to give for double land without having a way to get back from it, it's not gonna work, especially if their land is as destroyed as Tanya and Nathan say it is. It's not something that could work overnight, and it would require many years of work that they just don't have time for when they have their own land to look after, many of the people, including their son. Nathan was getting frustrated with this, and while trying to talk with Tanya, Rowan had taken the first act. He had used his magic to disable Otis's magic, and gave Nathan an opportunity to strike, saying that they could easily talk to Ava on her own without Otis in the way. Tanya urged against this, but Nathan, seeing an opportunity for a way to rise in the ranks, took this. He joined sides with Rowan and took out Otis, leaving Ava to grieve and protect her son Zell. In the crossfires, as Ava was protecting her son, striking Rowan, Tanya got hit. Nathan was furious because he couldn't tell if Rowan or Ava was the one who had stricken his wife. At this point, Nathan wanted nothing more than to just get a deal to have this magic to restore their land, to make these improvements, and at this point he didn't care about his end of the deal. He wasn't going to offer Rowan or any of them anything anymore at this rate. But unfortunately, amongst the chaos, Nathan had no choice. He had to take his dying wife Tanya back to Nemoria, and Rowan had essentially been put in a worse situation. He was not welcome in Mugala to begin with, and now he was no longer welcome by Nemoria. Nathan had told him that if he ever dare showed his face again, he would mount his head on the wall, and Ava told him that he was beyond banished, and that it was because of him that his husband is dead, and she had to raise her son alone. But each of them had different reasons for what they did next. Rowan had fled. He was not welcome anywhere. In fact, when he had gone to the land of Valoon once more to try and join them, word spread quickly, and Serenity and her parents did not welcome him at all. He was outcast. He had nothing anymore. He went from being able to live in peace to demanding so much more that he had bitten off way more than he could chew. Ava had done her best to raise her son Zell properly. She didn't want him to grow up hating the humans because of a misunderstanding of one of their own, but at the same time they needed to protect everyone. The idea that Nathan would still want their magic was something that they couldn't just bend over backwards and give them. They still needed to respect the rules of how magic and nature worked. They couldn't bleed themselves dry, especially after losing Otis. Ava had to take charge and do the best that she could to protect everyone in Mugala, while still raising Zell to be a wise man. Meanwhile, Nathan, after his wife Tanya died due to the injuries she had sustained, had started to build up hate. He wanted and needed that magic and the nature that the land of Mugala offered, and he knew that there were other lands now, but he wasn't going to dare go anywhere near Valoon after he had learned news of that's where Rowan had come from, and the fact that there were such creatures as chimeras that had existed. It was more reasonable for him to go after Mugala and the now grieving Ava and their son Zell. He wanted to strike while they were young, but he knew he had to raise Cameron to be able to do this as well in case he failed. And back and forth for a short few years, the war had continued until unfortunately Ava died of a broken heart, and Nathan had died from sickness and old age due to the lack of resources that they needed. So now, in the present time, it was between Zell and Cameron to finish what their parents had started. Zell wanted nothing more than for them to leave the land of Mugala alone, and he would try to do his best to reason with Cameron. However, Cameron saw things differently, especially after everything that his father Nathan had taught him in the many years that had passed between this incident. He blamed Zell and his parents for everything. The fact that Rowan had come from the land of Mugala in the first place convinced them that they could have had all of this magic, giving them false promises. He wanted what his parents were promised, even if his parents, Otis and Ava, didn't give it to them. He figured he could get it out of Zell, but with everything that was going on, this was starting to become a problem now for the neighboring land of Valoon, where humans, anthropomorphics, and chimeras, all of these hybrids, existed. Serenity had no choice but to be a voice of reason while her parents looked after the land in their old age. They were hanging on by threads, as unfortunately they didn't have very long to live, and Serenity had to do something to protect her land and everyone who wanted to join. Her idea of a peaceful solution was keeping it straightforward. All the anthropomorphics that wanted to stay in Mugala to give back to the land without needing to use these machines could do so without having to risk their land and magic. And for the land of Nemoria, Cameron needed to back off and just settle with the fact that they had damaged their land with the way that their parents ran things, and it was slightly out of his control, but now that he has the land to himself, he can change things for the better and change the history that would come from his actions. If he didn't, then he would end up not only destroying his land, but everyone else's lands around them, and Serenity couldn't risk that, because she had not just chimeras like herself to look out for, but other humans and anthropomorphics who didn't agree with either Nemoria or Mugala. It was such a constant clash with everything that this was the best that she could offer. And that is the current pause of the story and lore. That was the history and everything all revised up to this point, new reference sheets, so now you know what they look like, not just by name, and although I don't have any plans for what sort of medium I'm gonna do for retelling the story besides the yearly speed paints, I do hope to introduce more lore, and the more that I get reinvigorated with this story and these characters, the lore and everything, and I'm actually really excited to share more of what could happen for the future redraws, as I do still want it to be focused on Zell and Cameron, but I might end up doing more than just one illustration to not only see what my artwork looks like as each year passes with every new drawing, as a growth of an artist in the story, but also to introduce more to it so that you can see more than just the perspective of the time standstill of Zell and Cameron fighting each other. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to join the Subscribler Squad to never miss an upload. While you wait for the next upload, check out some of the playlists. If you'd like to see your fan artwork featured in the Subscribers gallery, tag me in it, as I love getting to see what you guys can create and sharing it to others on the channel. My card link is below, and if you'd like to further support this channel with exclusive Patreon rewards, Fennec Foxes for £2 a month gets you access to all of my work-in-progress sketches. Arctic Foxes for £5 a month gets you access to exclusive Patreon-only content, art videos, and comic pages early. Red Foxes for £10 a month gets your name read out at the end of the videos, just like this. Special thank you to Frankie Jr. 13. Stay possum, subscribers.